Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, growing like a breeze. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads, all my memories gathered round her. Miner's lady, stranger to blue water, dark and dusty, painted on the sky. Misty taste of moonshine, teardrop in my eye. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads, I hear a voice in the morning now. She calls me. The radio reminds me of my home far away. Driving down the road, I get a feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Yesterday, country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads, take me home. Down country roads, take me home. Down country roads. We are live. We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends if you want to support this college football rebel outpost channel. Hit the $ when you make a comment, and I will get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner. That sits on the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid, PATC community. Do not be afraid to be a legend with your comments in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. We started out by country roads. I did not give you a heads up for you to hit the mute button to get your dogs out of the house, to put the cotton in the ears. We started it off. It was different. Singing a song, a cappella, no music, at the beginning of the show instead of the end of the show. I still had a little bit of my voice at the beginning of the show. We've got a stacked show today. We're going to be talking about this story coming out that you can put a corporate logo on your football field. In fact, you can do it game by game, or you can do it through the whole season, different logos. And you also can have what they're calling 2 attachment logos, 2 other logos on the field. So there is some guardrails. You can't just, you can't just swallow up your whole football field with all these fast food logos where they're showing all these hamburgers slimed over with all this cheese. You can't do that. You can have one logo, your main one on the 50-yard line, and then you can have 2 other logos on your football field. According to Brett McMurphy, the NCAA approves corporate advertisements to be placed on college football fields this fall, in advertisements centered on the 50 and no more than 2 smaller flanking advertisements elsewhere on the field. This can be done on a game-by-game basis or the entire season. Now, before I get to thanking everybody that came in at the beginning of the show, and I do thank you all. It's kind of... Let's look at the title screen. I want to put up the title screen. Salary cap will rise as revenue rises. I want you to let that marinate just a little bit. Just a little bit. I mean, okay, so we get logos on the field. We put a patch on the jersey. We're doing all we can. We're doing all we can to get that $22 million so we can go all the way to the cap and paying direct payments from the schools, from the athletic department to the athletes, to the players. We're doing all we can. But as we're raising all these revenues, well, a lot of that revenue is going to have to be reported, and that's going to go into raising the salary cap again. The $22 million that we're going to say it's $22 million. I don't know. It could be 21, it could be 20, it could be 23. But for the sake of discussion, let's just say it's 22 million. 22 million. Well, they got that number from the average, and then they put a whole bunch of stuff on a spreadsheet. Media revenue, blah, 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 blah. And then they average it out to the 69 FBS football, the power conference football teams. It's the average. So if everybody is raising revenue to fulfill trying to reach the salary cap, that's going to raise the average. The average is the revenue as it goes up, the salary cap is going to go up, and we're all going to be chasing our tail year after year after year. That's just the way it's going to be. That's just the way it's going to be. Let me get to the super chats, and then I want to thank everybody who's come on in. So we're going to be talking about corporate logos on the football field. We're also going to be going through the Mercury News article of this afternoon. Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, talks to the Arizona State's Board of Regents, says some pretty interesting things in there. And of course, she's saying, you got to invest. You got to invest in your front porch of your university. That's how you attract the students. It really is about attracting the students. It's why the SEC's top targets are North Carolina and Virginia. It's all about attracting the students. More students in your university. When there's pressure, when there's this cultural, economic pressure where universities are losing students, you want to be able to gain students. The front porch of your university is a very good tool, if you're successful, to gain exposure for university to attract new students. And then we're going to talk about the Florida State ACC. The ACC appeals. They appeal the ruling of Judge Cooper. This was bound to happen. We've talked about it. Right? The race to judgment, a race to a ruling, has slowed down once again. And this is why I talk about July 12th is going to be a very important day. Very important in Pickens County. Very important in Pickens County. Because the judge is going to hear two motions. One, motion to dismiss ACC's motion to dismiss in Pickens County. And the judge is also going to hear the motion of Clemson wanting a partial summary, wanting a ruling on their first cause of their amended complaint, which has to do with Clemson believing that they, once they're no longer a member institution of the ACC, they get back their media rights. So July 12th is going to be a big day. And then whenever the ruling comes down, it could come down on July 12th, could come down on July 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, but whenever it happens, and if it goes pear-shaped for the ACC, if the ruling comes down in favor of Clemson on that summary motion, you can bet your bottom dollar that the ACC will, of course, appeal. They will appeal the decision. However, that might be such a big ruling that maybe that will dislodge the ACC, get them to the negotiation table. We shall find out. I also, after we go through that, I want to spend just a little bit of time. I had a conversation just want to pick your brain a little bit. Had a conversation with somebody in the industry trying to think up wild scenarios, if any of them are plausible, for Clemson, or especially for Florida State. For Florida State to say, hey, we're out of this conference. We're gone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, without a settlement or victory in the courts first. Because I know a lot of Florida State insiders, a lot of very smart people are reporting that Florida State is out. They're leaving. They're going to file a notice of withdrawal before August 15th, regardless if there's any victory in the courts. Regardless if there's not a settlement, Florida State is still filing a notice of withdrawal. Now, I'm not a big believer in that. I don't know what the benefit of that is. I don't think it really puts pressure on the ACC. There is, and that no one's ever told me the benefit of Florida State doing that. But there's one crazy, and it is crazy, but there is one crazy scenario that was discussed to me today saying, I suppose they could do it this way. But again, it fills up Florida State's risk side of the ledger and doesn't really increase their benefit side of the ledger. But I'm going to share it with you anyways. Let's get you guys' mind working on these scenarios. I want to thank everybody who's come on in. But first of all, let me get to the very generous donations here. Mark Boldman. Not bad. I blue miss gold blue. Yep, I miss him too. That was a very, of course, his brothers, his family, his friends, his loved ones, his fiance at the time, his children. I watched the funeral ceremonies, live streamed it. They live streamed it. We had just connected. Blue and gold dude, we had just connected. He'd been coming into our chat room. He's been saying, great job. We've been talked offline. We were just getting connected. Probably for about a month before he passed away. A big shocker. And I know it really affected the YouTube community of college football, because one of the things, blue and gold and blue dude, two things I take away from him. One is, man, there's nobody that grinded it out more than he did. He'd put out 4 or 5 episodes a day sometimes. Now, a lot of it maybe didn't have a whole lot of content to it, but he wanted to entertain everybody. He wanted to talk college football. He wanted to have the speculation zone. He wanted to talk about conspiracies. He wanted to talk about football. That's the number one thing, is like we all like, holy cow, this guy worked. He worked it. And he provided a lot of people entertainment. The other thing I will always remember, two other things. Golden Blue Dude. One other thing was, he didn't let people bother him. Right? He had a whole lot of trolls coming after him. And he did not let that affect him at all. So that was something to learn from him. And then the big major one that I remember, and I've talked about this before, but one of my all-time favorite live streams, possibly my favorite live stream, because it hit me right here in the heart. Golden Blue Dude. It was after West Virginia lost to Pittsburgh, in Pittsburgh. Primetime game just a few years ago. When the path went through the wide receiver's hand and was picked off, pick six, Pittsburgh won at the end. He live streamed his car ride from the stadium to the hotel room. And he was in so much pain because his beloved Mountaineers just lost a very tough game. It was all real, all authentic, of course, and that's what you want when you're watching a college football YouTube channel. You want that authenticity because there's so much fake out there. And Golden Blue Dude was not fake. He was authentic. You know where he was. You know what he loved. And sensational individual. In accordance to my belief, the next time we see Golden Blue Dude, the next time we see him, it will be forever. Thank you, Mark Bowman, for your super chat. I do appreciate it. Ryan Willie, the evil Badger. Greg, there's one way that Minnesota will win the Axe, by you playing. Well, that's not gonna happen. EA College Football 25. Minnesota has no chance of winning the Axe if I'm playing the video game, unless I am playing Wisconsin Badgers. Then Minnesota is going to win. Look, I'm just evil Badger. I'm just going to say this. The win total keeps creeping up in Vegas on the Gophers. And the reason why is the word is out. The word is out on quarterback. The best FCS quarterback in the country last year. The word is out that he can play at this level. Max Brosmere brought his Gopher receivers down to the state of Georgia and the Georgia Bulldogs. A writer that does for the Georgia Bulldogs 247, they were down there. They happened to watch him because the Gophers got a high four-star receiver in the portal from Georgia. They went and watched the receiver. And they watched Max Brosmere, and they came back and they told everybody, Minnesota 247, Max Brosmere is the real deal, Holyfield. That is why the win total has gone from 4.5 to 5.5 like that. So, buckle up, everybody. Buckle up. Thank you so much, Ryan Willie, for your generosity once again. I do appreciate it. Mark Bowman and Ryan Willie. Let me thank everybody who's come on in. We got to get to our show. Laura Weiss, little known fact, John Denver was a student, Texas Tech, in his younger days. Becky Go Huskies is in the house. I heard Greg, but I also heard 60,000 West Virginia fans singing it with them. Well, that's interesting. So 60,000 and one person singing a little bit off key. Yeah, that sounds about right. Thank you, Becky. Go Huskies. Rain Russell is in the house. Cornelius Green is in the house. Immaculate is here. Expedition Greg. Scrappin' Wolf is here. The Big Lubbock. Jan is in the house. Vox Quindaro is here. Bo Weevil. Love a good cheeseburger. Go Clemson. Historic fact about Clemson, excluding West Point, no universities provided more officers in World War II than Clemson and Texas A&M. Very, very, very interesting, Bo Weevil. Thank you for that information. Joe Z and the Little Brown Jug. Benjamin Griffin, what's up? Humble, Bumble, Duck. Opie, my dog sing along. No, wait. I don't have a dog. Whose dog? Jeez. Old Dad is here, present and keeping my head on a swivel. Yeah is in the house. Gold Nose. Daniel is here. MGC Sooner is here. Sparty Anthony Carlson is here. Big Ears Bo is in the house. Michael Monk, Mr. Mountaineer, is here. Jonathan Anderson. PAT should sponsor logo at Minnesota. Well, I'm going to, look, Minnesota's got all the disadvantages in the world when it comes to the world of college football. There is one advantage they have, or one possible advantage. And I don't think there's anybody that has more Forbes 500 corporations located. I don't know. We've got a ton of them here at Minnesota. And I know it's been written. 247 did a national article on it. Star and Tribune did an article on it, local paper. The collective at Minnesota, along with the athletic department, now is trying to get all these big Fortune 500 companies. We got a ton of them. I mean, we got a ton of them. Ton of them. And they're all trying to get them together to do this massive yearly NIL. We'll see what happens. It probably ain't going to happen. It probably go pear-shaped. We should have no problem putting a Fortune 500 logo on the stadium. That's one thing we won't have problems with. Congo is in the house. Chad Bracey is here. Frontrunner 3 is here. Me versus Echo Chamber. 3 XL Energy. It just keeps going. There's a ton of them. But again, just because you have them, they've always given a lot to the University of Minnesota. Research department, football, Cub Foods has given tens and tens of millions of dollars to the University of Minnesota. But we'll see what happens with NIL. We were told at the very beginning when this NIL happened that the Fortune 500 companies were going to stay on the sidelines for now because it was so unregulated. The big company, they were, but now we'll see. I know they're having meetings. I'm sure other athletic departments are having meetings with their Fortune 500 companies. We've already seen what FedEx has done for Memphis. Maybe we'll hear more of the stories, or maybe Michael Monk is North Carolina State connected. I apologize, Michael Monk. I do apologize. I've been calling you Mountaineer Monk. My bad. Okay. Let's get to the stories. Thank you for all coming on in. Appreciate it at the beginning of this Thursday, June 6th afternoon show. Brett Yormark. Brett Yormark, commissioner. The Big 12, he asked Arizona Board of Regents for continued investment in athletics. The NCAA's uncertain future will require a heavy financial commitment. After a sharp 30-minute presentation Thursday today on the Big 12 strategy and priorities, Commissioner Brett Yormark opened the floor to questions from the board, the Arizona Board of Regents. Those questions covered a range of topics, from content strategy to the portal, NIL, to the future of college sports. Yormark spoke of the need for innovation, bold decisions, but was understandably short on specifics at the Fulton Center on Arizona State's Tempe campus. Because of the ongoing court cases, nobody knows exactly what form college athletics will take in the second half of the decade and beyond. But this much was clear. Every path to success will require significant financial commitment by Arizona and Arizona State, by their athletic directors, their presidents, their donors, and their governing board. Which is why the last sentence of the final slide in Yormark's presentation resonated loudly. We must continue to invest in college athletics. Athletics drives enrollment, philanthropy. It drives a lot of things in college, in your university, the front porch of your university. I would impress upon you to lean in, to be a resource in every way possible. Leaning in became both important and more challenging last month when Power 5 conferences agreed to settle a multi-billion-dollar antitrust lawsuit brought against the NCAA by former Arizona swimmer Grant House. If approved, most likely it will be approved by Judge Claudia Wilkin, the settlement will carry a price tag of approximately $30 million annually for the Wildcats and the Sun Devils and their colleagues in the power conferences. Roughly $20 million for the revenue sharing agreement with athletes, approximately $10 million to increase the number of scholarships for multiple sports. The revenue sharing amount likely will increase over time because it is hooked into the total revenue generated by athletic departments. That's what we said about at the very beginning of the show. After the off-key singing of Country Roads, we went there. The revenue sharing amount likely will increase over time because it's hooked into the total revenue generated by athletic departments. So athletic departments are going to be having these new revenue streams, creating revenue, and then the average of revenue is going to go up, and then the salaries cap is going to go up, and everyone's going to have to do the same thing. Kind of a vicious cycle, but that is where we are. And those revenues will rise thanks to escalated clauses in TV deals and the expanded college football playoff. This comes as Arizona and Arizona State navigate massive budget deficits. Remember that. Both of them. The Wildcats reported a slight operating surplus in the 2023 fiscal year, but needed $44 million in university support to make the math work. So yeah, a little bit of an operating surplus, but they needed to have $44 million kicked in from the university. The Sun Devils weren't any better off. They had a $27 million deficit despite $16.6 million in campus support. Notably, the regents did not push back on Yormark's call for investment. Remember, this is Yormark, the new commissioner for Arizona State. The Big 12 is a new conference. The Big 12 is a new conference for both the Sun Devils and the Wildcats. In fact, Lindell Manson, who chaired the committee responsible for Yormark's presentation, showed a firm grasp of the issues and echoed a concern on many campuses that sharing revenue with athletes and paying for their scholarships could be considered double dipping. A lot of people feel that way, Yormark responded. Whether the legal system agrees is another matter. For the NCAA's abysmal record in the courts is one reason Yormark was short on specifics. If Wilkin approves the House settlement, that's the judge. The implementation in the fall of 2025 will undoubtedly spark another round of legal challenges. Many of them likely focus on Title IX, the 1972 federal law that guarantees equal opportunity for female athletes. Will the courts force schools to divide the revenue sharing amount, $20 million, $22 million, $21 million, whatever, equally between male and female athletes? How much can go to football and men's basketball players? Will schools have to eliminate sports to offset the increased expenses? Also unknown, how House will impact NIL collectives and whether it will end the barrage of antitrust lawsuits against the NCAA. After all, the groundbreaking settlement was not collectively bargained by a labor union because college athletes don't have a labor union, nor do they need one. Why form a union when you can transfer whenever you want and play immediately? That's true, you got so much freedom in this system. Collective bargaining agreement, you're going to have to give some back. Why form a union when you can share revenue and have scholarships paid for and receive NIL compensation? There's never been a better time than right now to be a student athlete, Yormark told the regents. They are being treated like employees, but not classified as employees. And therein lies the crux of the NCAA's predicament. Decades of missteps sparked the legal challenges that toppled the system and created the current anarchy, the very same anarchy that benefits the athletes so thoroughly that they have no motivation to form unions that would lead to collective bargaining and the implementation of guardrails, which means more upheaval is guaranteed, and the likelihood of cost containment is less than zero. Again, Mercury News, John Wilner. As a result, the pressure will mount on the Arizona Board of Regents and similar oversight entities across the country to approve investment in college athletics. We have a responsibility to compete at the highest level, Arizona Athletic Director Desiree Reed-Francois told the regents. Revenue sharing is part of that. We're going to participate, but there are a lot of details we're working through. One detail requires no vetting in Tucson or Tempe, in Eugene or Austin or Ann Arbor until the NCAA bargains collectively with players' union. Cost control in college athletics is merely a dream. I absolutely agree with John Wilner of the Mercury News. Until we get a collective bargaining agreement, the players and whoever is going to be the governing body, I think all of this is for naught. I really do. I mean, it's fascinating to cover on one aspect of it, but on the other aspect of it, I think it's going to get ugly again. And I think it's going to get ugly fast again. I don't know. I think what they're doing, they had to have a settlement so they can just pay off the class action lawsuit, $2.8 billion instead of $20 billion or whatever it could have been. But beyond that, there is no solution in this settlement that is going to be long lasting, in my opinion. Disagree with me in the chat. Give me a phone call. Let me know how wrong I got it once again. Before Larry the GM actually agrees with me. There's one person that agrees with me. Before we get to your phone calls. We need to talk about what happened in Leon County today. The great Matt Baker, the Tampa Bay Times, ACC asked Florida Appeals Court to review legal loss to Florida State. A Leon County judge committed a judicial foul, the conference argues. The ACC has asked a Florida appeals court to review its recent legal loss to Florida State. At issue is whether Florida State's lawsuit against the Atlantic Coast Conference should proceed in Tallahassee, while the ACC suit against the school proceeds in North Carolina. The Leon County Circuit Court ruled that it should. The Leon County Circuit Court ruled that the case should continue on in Leon County, Florida. The ACC, unsurprisingly, disagreed and formally asked Florida State's First District Court of Appeal to overturn that ruling Wednesday. Now, did you notice they did the appeal Wednesday, June 5th? How long ago was the ruling? Sometime in April, correct? So, again, they did not file the appeal right away. They waited. The ACC waited, slowing down the pace in Leon County. The same thing is happening in Mecklenburg County, where Florida State has appealed to the State Supreme Court of North Carolina. Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times. In this high-profile lawsuit over the interpretation of college sports contracts, the trial court committed a judicial foul, the ACC said in its 61-page petition for writ of whatever that word is. We're not going to go through the 61 pages. We're not going to do it. We've been doing that on all these live shows, but we're going to skip it for this one. It's just a whole lot of the ACC. They're appealing the decision. Again, it has to do with who filed first. To the ACC, the judicial foul centers on who sued whom first. The ACC said they did. The North Carolina court ruled in the ACC's favor. Generally, the second suit is paused until the first one is resolved. But a Leon County judge, John C. Cooper, ruled that Florida State's suit should remain ongoing. He cited the concerns ranging from Florida's public records law to an improper rush to the courthouse by the ACC. The conference petition said his ruling broke from the essential requirements of law by relying on out-of-state cases. Cooper's manufactured, novel approach, the league wrote, doesn't exist in Florida law and trades decision certainty for decisional chaos. That chaos, Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times, that chaos is playing out through multiple court cases in multiple states. The Florida State ACC case in Leon County is headed to mediation amidst the conference appeal. Florida State has also appealed to the ACC's complaint in North Carolina to that state Supreme Court. Clemson and ACC have related ongoing lawsuits against each other in both Carolinas, with hearings scheduled for next month, July 12th, July 12th, July 12th. And finally, in Matt Baker's article, they all funnel into the same broad question. The PATC money shot of this article and of today. Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times. They all funnel into the same broad question. What should Florida State and Clemson owe the ACC if they leave the conference? The conference has argued in North Carolina that the only way to ensure a single, uniform interpretation is to have all the cases play out there in Mecklenburg County. The ACC plans to try to consolidate them after the state Supreme Court rules on Florida State's appeal. Now, I am not a lawyer. I am not the brightest bulb in the refrigerator. I just happen to make sure I know where the refrigerator is in every building, in every room that I go into. The fat guy from Minnesota. But I'm not the brightest bulb in the fridge. So I'm going to have to ask everybody. I got to ask. And I'm going to need answers from the PATC community. That last sentence. The ACC plans to try to consolidate them, all these cases, after the state Supreme Court, North Carolina Supreme Court, rules on Florida State's appeal. What does that look like? What is the process? How does it happen? The ACC plans to try to consolidate the cases, right? After the North Carolina Supreme Court rules on Florida State's appeal. What exactly does that mean? I have no idea. I looked at that. I read that. I don't think anyone has talked about it with that type of language. So if there's a lawyer out there, please help me out. I have no clue what I just read. But I think it might be important. I think it. I don't know. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means, and I think it might be important. The ACC plans to try to consolidate them, the cases, after North Carolina Supreme Court rules on Florida State's appeal. So one more thing before we get to your phone calls, and you can talk about anything college football that you desire. The corporate logo that you think is going to be on the football field of your team. So if you call about something else, I'm still going to ask you that question. What would you like to see the logo on the 50-yard line of Boise State, of the Iowa Hawkeyes, of the Purdue Boilermakers, of the Mississippi Rebels What logo, corporate logo, do you want to see? That's going to be a question in your phone calls. So before we open up the phone lines, I'm going to tell you about a conversation I had. So again, just trying to come up with a scenario that would make it to where Florida State would, how could Florida State say, we're gone? We're gone without a settlement or a victory in the courts. And you're not going to get a victory in the courts by August 15th. You could get a big one in Pickens County, but it's going to get appealed. But without a final victory or settlement, how does Florida State go about doing what a lot of people believe they're going to do? And that is file a notice of withdrawal. What would happen? So talking to somebody in the industry, the person told me, look, I suppose Florida State would strike a big deal. Maybe they're donors. Maybe they have a institutional way of doing it. Maybe they have an endowment. Maybe that there's something that will happen in Florida State. It sounds like they've got the money to pay off the exit fee. But what they're going to need if they leave the conference, they're going to need revenue coming in from somewhere. In other words, maybe Florida State would strike this deal with this private capital. So Florida State, now we're pretending here. We're just pretending. Because I don't believe this is, let's just go through it first. Florida State files a notice of withdrawal. Richard McCullough, the president of Florida State, writes a letter to the commissioner and all the other presidents of the ACC and tells them they are leaving on July 1st, 2025. That's their first day as not being a member of the ACC. Now, they're going to have the money ready to pay the exit fee, all that stuff. According to this conversation I was having with somebody in the industry, it's not believed that Florida State will still be able to have talks with the SEC and the Big Ten. That doesn't change anything because Florida State still is not going to have their media rights until a court rules on that. And again, you got the court. They're going through that right now. So what Florida State would be doing is, in this scenario, according to this person I had a long conversation with, is they would get a massive cash infusion from private capital. And maybe it would be like $60 million a year for like 5 years. So it'd be like $300 million. Florida State would then pay themselves $60 million a year. Instead of getting a $40 million payout from the ACC, $45 million, they would pay themselves $60 million from this slush fund. Now, so in 5 years, that would cost them $300 million plus interest. But then again, a settlement would cost them $300 million or more or less. We don't know. But so that is not the issue. The issue is, now what? Florida State is not going to be a member of the ACC, right? In this scenario, they have done a notice of withdrawal. Where do their basketball teams play? Where do their baseball teams play? How does their football team? Because the person in the industry says the Big Ten and the SEC won't take them. Fox will not touch it. ESPN on the other side is not going to touch them. They're not going to be invited. There is not an offer, obviously, until they get back their rights. The Big Ten, their games would be supposedly still distributed by ESPN. The money would go to the ACC. Florida State's getting money from the private capital, but where's Florida State? How are they going to schedule all their sponsored teams when they're not in any conference? Do they just go independent for all of them? And to what benefit? Just so they're gone from the ACC. Again, a long conversation. I shouldn't say nobody, but I think if you guys asked a question in a mailbag to a Ross Dellinger, to a Brett McMurphy, to Pete Thamel, Kirk Herbstreit, whoever you want to do a mailbag with, and I think if you asked them the question, what would happen if Florida State left the conference notice of withdrawal without their rights? I think most of them would tell you it's too much. Florida State would not do that. Because again, what is the exact benefit? They still will not be able to join the Big Ten or the SEC. They're not going to touch them. Their legal counsels are not going to touch them. Big Ten cannot show their home games. Yes, they can be part of the Big Ten or the SEC. They can away games, but again, they just are not bringing the value to the conference. And the Fox and ESPN are not going to want to play this game because it could be turned on them in other ways. So again, I'm just throwing that out there. Long conversation I had with somebody. It gets complicated. To say that you're going to leave without your grant of rights, not knowing when you're going to get a resolution on your grant of rights, boy, that is a huge risk. Huge. But again, private capital, like to hear your thoughts on it. Anyways, we don't think it's going to happen, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Let's open up the phone lines. Appreciate you all. Carrie Gold knows, Greg. I was in the kitchen fixing my dog dinner as you started singing. He took running for the hills. He took running for the hills down the street, and I just got him back in the house. Well, you know what? The good news is we got it done early in the show. So Carrie Gold knows you and your dog can just relax. Everybody can just relax. The bad part is over. The bad part is over. We got this thing done. Thank you, Carrie Gold knows, for your super chat. Thank you for your continued generosity. We've also got a question here. Let me get to it. Hold on. We got one more subject to hit. Brian Murphy, WRAL, has been covering this story. NC scheduling bill won't advance this session, but wonder if the message hasn't been sent. We'll see what North Carolina and North Carolina State do schedule-wise in the future years. In other words, was the message sent to North Carolina and North Carolina State that they have to make sure that they're playing the other FBS North Carolina schools, Appalachian State and Charlotte? They have to make sure that they're playing those other schools at least once every 6 years. Again, it didn't advance this session. We'll see what happens for the next. We'll see what happens. I'm not going to dig down into it. We've already done it in there's a lot of reasons why bills don't advance. So we'll keep our powder dry in this. But again, North Carolina, some legislatures are not shy about getting involved in the decision-making, scheduling-making of North Carolina and North Carolina State. So keep that in mind as the weeks and months go on. We're going to open up the phone lines right now. Let me know what kind of logo you want on the center of your field. Let me know what corporation, who do you think is willing to pay to put a big old logo on the middle of your field? Do you want a logo on the middle of your field? Phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Give me a call. Talk about anything you want. North Carolina State had a home and home series scheduled with Appalachian State, Charlotte, and East Carolina between 25 and 31. But North Carolina State will not play Appalachian State as scheduled. So we'll keep an eye on that.
Call from
BJ.
BJ, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir.
I appreciate it, Greg. As always, thanks for having me on. Just two things today. The other day we talked, I think I talked about just trying to understand Jim Phillips' strategy on and why they're making the decisions they're making, right? And I brought up that the academic alignment to me seemed quite obvious after reviewing, some documentations and articles and stuff. And it appeared as if that my thought process was in the minority if you looked at the comment section, right? And I think it was a guy who called in right after me. And yesterday I ended up turning on the computer and I went to I think it was Baylor 365. That's what it was. And they had a Raleigh-based sports investigative, beat writer for the North Carolina schools. He said the exact same thing that I said, that academic alliance is more important in the ACC with the presidents than most people would even understand. He also hinted that that's why they added SMU, and not a Memphis or not a another G5 team instead of SMU or Oregon State, Washington State. I just thought it was reassuring that, I thought after reviewing everything that's what it came across to me as, and he confirmed it, or he reaffirmed it rather. But that's neither here nor there. The most important thing is this appellate process that the ACC is doing. I don't quite understand the verbiage that was used. The verbiage, when I read Matt Baker's article, the verbiage came across, and he extrapolated it from, the actual 61-page document. It came across as offensive. They used certain words they used were basically talking down to the judge. That's how I took it. I don't know how you took it, but if you could you? What is your opinion on that?
Well, I skimmed through that 61 pager. Yeah, so I can't give you a reasonable answer to that. I don't know.
So if you get a chance, if you get a chance to review parts of it, it was kind of like you're stupid. You didn't follow the rules, and right, and at least that's how I read it. Maybe I'm reading too much into the verbiage, but it wasn't as professional in my opinion. Similar to how they kind of called, I think the ESPN lawyers called Florida State felonious in their approach. It was akin to that in my opinion. But either way, let me get off your phone, and once again, thanks for having me on here.
No problem. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for the call, sir. So everybody hang on tight here. I know this happens once in a while. I can't remember. I think it happened one other time on my channel, but I know it happens with other channels once in a while. I'm not able to change the comment. So right now I cannot go off Kerry Gold knows. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to do something real quick. Ryan Willie, I want to get to you super chat. I cannot show it up on the screen. I'll be at the Battle for the Axe, drinking hot chocolate and eating a cheeseburger or two. Well, that cheeseburger is going to cost you the win. It's going to cost you the Axe. Evil Badger, Ryan Willie, thank you for your generosity. I'm sorry I can't put your comment on the board. I'm going to try to do something. Everybody give me just a second here. I'm going to try to do something. I'm going to try to fix this during the live show. It is scary to do this. I don't got anybody now. Hold on here. Boy, this has gone pear-shaped. This has gone pear-shaped. Nope. Now I can't get anybody. Boy, nothing is working. Well, for now, there's not going to be any comments up on the screen. And no matter what button I press, nothing is happening. All right, we're going to try this once again. One more time. Come on, baby. One time. I'm copying that overlay. It's a different overlay. Holy smokes. It's getting worse. It is getting worse. I'm sorry, guys. Just be a little bit more patient here. I'm going to try to save this show. Yeah, can't get any comments. Don't know what happened. It might be even a YouTube thing, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we'll continue on. But I'm not able to put up anybody's chats. It just isn't taken. I'm going to open up the phone line. 763-260-1333. I do apologize. I will read the comments on a super chat. I will...
Call from
a Big Ten brother.
Big Ten brother, thanks for calling in, sir.
Hey, I see you're having a little problem with your comments. I'm like, Greg, pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Put the comments aside. And let's go with the phone calls. You know,
You're right. Go ahead. I'm just afraid that the whole thing's going to collapse. Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
I got you. The next thing that happens is the phone line goes down. Then you're sitting in the dark.
Yeah.
Hey, but anyway, I see that my buddy called in the call before, and he was commenting on the comment where he thinks that and I don't mean to stay on this, but it's just interesting to me why people would look at this whole conference realignment thing and think that it's all about academics. When if you do a little research, you'll know it's not about academics when Cal and Stanford are only getting 50% for the first 5 years of the money for joining the ACC. If they wanted them so badly, wouldn't they give them 100%?
Yeah. I mean, it's important. It's just, but the network who's paying you for the money,
yes,
the media money, they need to see value in it. So, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like if it comes down between Stanford and Florida State and the SEC has to make a choice, my gut feeling is they're going with Florida State, even though they're not an AAU school. That's the direction they're going. So I mean, the academic part of it, don't get me wrong, academics is important. If let's say it's North Carolina and Virginia and they're tied. Okay, we can only take one of you. Okay, then they're going to look at it and say, all right, here, Virginia and say, I don't know, Syracuse. And we can only take one of you. Well, then they're going to take Virginia. If everything is equal, let's take the school that's the best academic school. But that'll be the last thing that it comes down to after the money, the networks, the geography, the alumni, and the stadium. I mean, everything else will come into consideration first before they look at the academics. I mean, it's sorry to say that, but it's just the reality of college life. I'll get off the line. I want to give you, I think I left you this story when I first walked in from high school football to college football. And I played in front of 5,000 people. Then my next game was in front of 90,000 people. And I said to my coach, I said, holy cow. I go, look at this place. I go, just a year ago, I was playing in front of 5,000 people. He goes, you're gonna see what rules the show here in college football. And I said, obviously football. He goes, well, unless you can get a professor to come out here and perform a lab experiment, and 100,000 people are going to show up at $40 a ticket, it'll always be college football. Just like I got buddies in the Ivy League. And academics is very, very, very important, obviously, in the Ivy League. But they're told, or they'll come back and say, it's basically a hedge fund with classrooms. There's always an underlying money rules the day. But anyway, I won't take any much of your time. But it's funny to me that people don't see that when it's just, that's why Notre Dame is so important. Notre Dame's walking around with bags of cash hanging off the side of and now it's a great academic school, no doubt. But boy, oh boy, do they bring the parties, you know what I mean? They just got money falling off them. They're lucky to have both. You know, they're very fortunate. A lot of schools have, like Vanderbilt has the academics, but not the football. Notre Dame has both, so it's hard. But anyway, I won't take up too much more of your time. But just for anyone out there, it's always going to be money. Always going to be about money. All right. Talk to you later, buddy.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Big Ten brother. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You got it.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate. Mr. Hot Guy is on the line. The floor is yours.
The answer to the question is AccuView.
Oh, for your logo. Yes.
For the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yes.
Because otherwise, this is just going to be all done in poor taste. These schools, they need to figure out at least something that is relevant to them for something to put up there, so that way at least people can have a good laugh at it. We can talk about the usual things like what goes into realignment and all that, but that tends to be an everyday thing. But yeah, I thought that announcement was quite interesting. I think it's slippery slope. They say now you can only have one in the middle, and then only the two other ones. Like, yeah, right. Like that's not ever going to slide and be more. It will. It's just, this is it for now. But yeah, I mean, I think whoever's running these, if they have any kind of taste at all, they're going to think of like what advertisers have names that are, at least sound relevant or something involved there. Like we say Tide detergent for Alabama, Turtle Wax for the Maryland Terrapins. Just put a little taste. I hope that they put a little taste into it. And it's not just, whoever pays the most gets their name on it, which is probably what it'll end up being.
It'll probably end up being that to a certain extent. I mean, they don't want to put a logo on there that's doesn't adhere to the values of the university. But yeah, probably a lot of bank stuff, I'm guessing.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be everyone's gonna want it. Like you can't tell me you don't want your name on that field when the cameras are just staring. I mean, because people don't listen to commercials anymore.
Yeah.
But they're watching the whole game.
Yeah, they'll who knows? There might be a private equity firm that might have their logo at the center of the field, right?
So you're saying Redbird Capital should get in with Louisville?
Yeah.
Hopefully. I mean, if they're going to get in with someone, I guess that one. But, I don't like to jump in on other calls either, but just real quick and then I'm out of here. Academics matters to some degree, right? We varied on conferences. I know Matt was asking in chat about the whole Stanford thing. That certain different conferences have different needs. I don't want to be too preachy about it, but when we say talk research numbers, it's not like that means all that money is now another school that's in the conference, but it's loosely representative of business connections that a school has in order to actually be able to have that amount of research. And that's really what it's about. It's about getting connections. That's why Maryland, they were actually excited to get Maryland because it has a lot of connections in the Department of Defense and in other agencies in Washington. So by being with them, you get to see their research information. So that's, if anyone's wondering why, like maybe a Stanford would get blocked by the Big Ten from joining in just football or just one sport, but they might get an invite for all sports, because that's the difference between whether or not they have to join the Big Ten Academic Alliance. So, it's real hard to just like define like, yes, no, academics means this or it means that.
Yeah.
It's a lot more complicated than that. So I don't want to go into too much, but if you're looking at why Florida State and Clemson, for someone like me who's like, man, I cannot understand why that would be the case in the Big Ten, think of it as if you had you had Florida State, a Clemson, and a Notre Dame join. Those are all network ads, right? I mean, those are networks going to drool and salivate over those all day long. And the business side, the presidents, if they look at a Stanford, a Duke, and say a California, the networks are going to say, well, we don't like those as much. And the president's going to say, yeah, but we like these for our business because the connections they have in the business world and the research world and all they can add to in that. They also share internment positions across schools. People may not realize that as part of the BTAA. Stanford's got like almost a monopoly on internment positions in a lot of tech companies. So it's just, there's a lot more that goes into it than just football money when it comes to the Big Ten. And when you talk them on that side of things, you're talking in billions. You're not talking in millions. So just food for thought for people. Like I said, in terms of the advertising, I hope they put some thought into it and it doesn't just become whoever offers the most gets it, because that's going to turn into a kind of a tasteless situation very quickly.
Yep. Should be interesting. Just another subject that we're going to be talking about. Right? I mean, we're going to be seeing these logos pop up, and then they're going to be on your video game next year. So,
Oh my God, yeah, that's true too. I mean,
Yeah, it's crazy.
I
Now,
didn't know about that.
before you go, Immaculate, are we expected to hear some new information on the video game tomorrow? Is that what I read?
This one guy, this one website that had articles up, and on the last time they put them up too soon, and they just dropped one on the Dynasty mechanics, or whatever. It was an interview with one of the main developers, and they dropped that today. And I think maybe they were not supposed to drop it till tomorrow, because we know that there's a Dynasty deep dive video coming from the developers. So that's why I'm saying we might have gotten a little leak that that's coming tomorrow. For those who care, most people probably don't, but those are the mechanics that have the realignment stuff in it, the transfer portal, all that thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how they try to put that into a game that everyone can enjoy and control themselves instead of,
Yeah.
hoping when the wind that realignment goes your way.
Yeah.
So.
All right. I
Possibly
appreciate
more.
it. Thanks for the call,
Absolutely,
sir.
Talk to you later.
Mr. Hot Guy. Yeah.
Call from
Crab cakes and football.
Crab cakes and football.
to
Can you just
accept,
hold
press
for a
1.
moment?
To send a voicemail, press 2.
Ah, jeez, nothing is working. Crab cakes and football. Can you hold for a moment?
Sure can.
I do appreciate it. I'm not able to put the comments up on the screen. Somehow we lost that. So I want to read a few comments here before we get to a phone call. Ryan Brooks, Minnesota, sponsored by Cheese Company. I don't know. I don't think so. I do not think so. SEC, John Doe. SEC has to have a Waffle House at every midfield. Omaha Steaks at Memorial Field. Me versus Echo Chamber. Suzanne Bajour says you have a great voice. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate it. Okay, Crab Cakes and Football. Thank you for your patience. I'm not able to put up comments on the screen. If I find if there's a super chat or an interesting comment, I'll just read it for the rest of the show. I do apologize, everybody. I try to fix it. Nothing is working. I don't know what's going on. It might be a YouTube. I think it's a YouTube situation. I know it's happened to other channels during the live show. They lose the ability to put the comment up on the screen. And I know it's not something I've done. I keep changing the link, the overlay. I keep instilling it. And it just isn't working. So I do apologize to everybody. Crab Cakes and Football, the floor is yours, sir.
Hey, Immaculate kind of stole a little bit of my thunder. I was going to mention that defense thing and bringing capital into college football. But Maryland's been doing this for, if you look it up, since before 2006 with Capital One when they came in, and then they sponsored the field. And now you got CQ Stadium, which is State Employees Credit Union, which is sponsoring their stadium now, and other stadiums have been doing it. So in a way, it's been around for a while. It's just now I think you're going to see the Alabamas, possibly the Florida States, and the bigger name brand schools are going to be jumping on. And because they're jumping on, now it's a big story. But it's actually been around since at least 2006, I think it is.
Yeah.
Or a little bit before that. So, I mean, so I didn't really think of it as private capital. I just thought of it as a sponsorship. But, when you start getting a bank and Xfinity for a basketball arena and and Xfinity Pavilion for a volleyball arena, and then you got CQ Stadium. I mean, we got big major corporations investing millions of dollars or whatever. I don't know what the numbers are, so I have no clue what they are. I haven't looked that up. But they're putting their logos on the courts and on the football field already. They've been doing that for years. So it's kind of already been around, but I think now it's going mainstream. I think everybody.
Well, there was regulations on you couldn't put logo. You couldn't do certain things on the football field.
Well, when did that regulation come out? Because we put CQ in our football field all last year and the year before. Last year, I think it was.
What did you
year
put?
Of the contract. CQ, SECU.
Oh.
CQ Stadium, right there on our.
Well, maybe you can do. Yeah, you can do the stadium logo, but we're talking corporation logo that doesn't have stadium rights.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I hear the private corporations, and I'm going, well, in major corporations, Fortune 500 companies and everything. Yeah. But I had something else in my brain, but dang if I didn't forget it, because I think today's just a breakdown day. So
yeah, well,
I'm not even going to waste your time.
That happens to me all the time.
I'm not going to waste your time. So, yeah, I'm tired. I've been running my butt off this week. So, all right, man, I'm going to let you go. This has been a short phone call, but enjoy your work.
No problem.
Have
Thank
fun.
you, sir. Thanks for calling, sir. And just to show you Doug Rohan, a friend of the program's, post 9 minutes ago on the ACC appeals.
Call from
Becky, go Huskies.
Becky, go Huskies. Can you just hold one moment, please?
Sure can, Greg.
I appreciate it. Everything's gone pear-shaped. Everything has gone pear-shaped. Doug Rohan, friend of the program, puts 10 minutes ago. The ACC appeals Judge Cooper's order to the First District Court of Appeal in Florida. The ACC is seeking a determination by a higher court in Florida, just like Florida State is doing in North Carolina Supreme Court, asking that Judge Cooper be bound by the precedent of similar prior cases, to hold that the Florida case must be stayed while the North Carolina case proceeds. Just showing everybody Doug Rohan's latest post about 10 minutes ago. Becky, go Huskies. Thanks for calling. The floor is yours.
So what I'm gathering between what Mr. Rohan put on there and what you've been talking about, essentially, what I'm gathering is the ACC is saying you can't have it in two courts, because if one court rules one way and the other court rules the other way, they could potentially contradict each other.
Well, and the ACC is saying we were the first one to file, so therefore we should have jurisdiction. And Mecklenburg County agreed with them, and Cooper said nope. And then the ACC in that 61-page briefing gave examples of how Judge Cooper did not really even use Florida State laws to make his decision, to make his ruling. He used outside state examples. But anyways, go ahead, ma'am.
No problem. I was like, it was so long, and like I was trying to keep up with it, and I'm like, I live as far away from Florida as you can get, and still be in the lower 48. Mm-hmm. So, like, no idea about their laws or anything. I just found it really, really weird that it sound like for instance, North Carolina, the state of North Carolina, a bill died that would have forced North Carolina and North Carolina State to always play each other in football. Like, I couldn't believe they were going to make that a law.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's probably the most interesting part of it, right? They're going to make it a state law that North Carolina and North Carolina State have to play each other every year, regardless of what happens. Now, it didn't happen yet. Then it's not going to happen this session, but it very well might happen the next go around. You know, there's a lot of reasons why things don't. You know.
Yeah, they sometimes just get introduced, tabled, or killed, and then they just get reintroduced because you can do it over and over and over, obviously.
Yeah.
I do think it is a little telling when you have what happened like today in court, obviously, and then, you know, I think we'll have like something in the next couple of months. I think, like you said earlier, I think it's right now the ACC holds all the power, but I'm just starting to see little like chinks in the armor, you know, and they're really starting to like Florida State and Clemson are starting to break through. I did want to ask you a quick question.
Yes.
Your friend who claims you're only doing this for clout listed.
Yeah.
He only listed. He said there's only there are 4 schools. He's not going to name the 4th because he doesn't want anybody to like get there. But he said only the Big Ten is Notre Dame, North Carolina, Florida State, and then it has to be like an A&M to make the money work. No mention of Clemson, by the way. I thought that was funny.
What did he say?
Doesn't make sense.
I don't. You know, he. So what happens, Becky? What happens is that people take pictures of this guy's account and they send it to me. In 99% of the time, I look at it, go, I just ignore it. I don't know what he's saying. I have no idea what he's saying, but once in a while he'll take a shot and now he accused me of, genetics accused me of taking his intel. First of all, I have no idea what he's even saying. I don't care what he's saying. And who would go to him for intel is beyond me. Now, what are you saying? I did. I
just sent you the screenshot. I know you get a lot of them, and I just sent it to you.
What schools did he say the Big Ten's only interested in?
He said, in order to take 4 schools, money has to work, meaning no school sees a reduction in their school payout. Anyway, says Fox Sports has 3 schools approved that I know for a fact. Funny. Notre Dame, UNC, Florida State. A 4th school would have to be Texas A&M or Clemson to make the money work. But only 3 are. Only 3.
Yeah, I don't know.
No point.
All I know is he because people keep sending me his stuff. Something to do with okay, you sent me it. Okay. Okay, Fox Sports has not approved any schools for anything.
Yeah, I'm like that would probably be. I would think that ESPN and the ACC would.
What? No. What I mean is,
if they did, right? Like
Fox Sports has Fox and ESPN because they're asked by the commissioners. They're asked by G5 commissioners. They're being asked all the time to do valuations, right?
Yeah.
To do valuations. That's what happens, and it happens a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Washington, Oregon, valuation, it happens constantly. But there's a difference between there's a difference between a Pac-2 commissioner asking ESPN Fox the valuation on Tulane if we bring them in. What is the valuation of them? There's a big difference between that and Fox going, "Oh, we approved them. We approved them." That's not what this. Nobody has an offer. Nobody has been approved. None of that has happened. There's been valuations. So people are trying to line up what might work, but Big Ten has not officially asked Fox if we could bring in any of, obviously Notre Dame would come in, North Carolina. He just doesn't know how any of it works, so he just throws things out there, and it's a shame, really. But I'm sorry to interrupt you, Beck. I saw you.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really funny when I saw it earlier.
Washington.
I'm
let me give you an example, Becky. Now that you got me all fired up.
yeah.
Washington. The Big Ten had interest in Washington. They had interest in Oregon. We reported that, right? We said these were the two. And it was going to happen before they went to the Southeast. And Fox had evaluation, and the Big Ten wanted Washington. And Oregon, Fox Sports wanted them. There's valuations. And because the money market was tight, it did not come in as a full bolt, whatever. But Washington did not get an offer from the Big Ten until the very last moment, when the Big Ten knew that Washington would say yes and officially apply. All that happened, you know this, Becky, more than anybody. All that happened in the late evening, the morning hours of August 3rd, August 4th. And months before that, Washington met with first-party talks with the Big Ten, because the Big Ten legal counsel passed it. They said, go ahead, Big Ten, you can do it, because we all know that Washington is going to get out of their grant of rights by August 1st of 2024. So yeah, go ahead. We're not in legal trouble. So Washington talked with the Big Ten. Oregon talked with the Big Ten. There was interest in those two schools. Now, the guy that we're just talking about said, no, that ain't going to happen. That's not going to happen. Tony Petitti is not going to expand. He's not here to expand. He sent a whole bunch of tweets, but there was no offer. There was nothing. There was just an interest, very strong interest. Washington knew how much the Big Ten was interested in Washington. They knew what schools were pushing for Washington. Everybody in the Big Ten West wanted expansion out to Washington and Oregon, but Iowa was the athletic director at the time was a little bit shaky on the idea. Minnesota wanted it. Wisconsin wanted it. Michigan wanted it. Ohio State and Penn State, not so much. But my point is, even when the skids are greased, even when everybody knows of everybody's interest, the application, Washington did not send that application until they knew, wink, wink, nod, nod, that the Big Ten would accept them. And the Big Ten wasn't going to accept them without knowing that there weren't going to be an offer until they knew they were going to get the application. Everybody got to know what's going on, and it didn't happen until the very last moment. That's what happens. There's a lot of work, and then a whole bunch of stuff happens at the end. There is no offer for Florida State. Fox Sports has not approved anybody. There's only valuations. And the reason for that is, Becky, we don't know what the heck's going to happen 2 months from now in this world of ours. The Big Ten, the Fox, are not going to be on the hook for anything until that very last moment of conclusion, knowing this school is going to have their media rights at a certain time. There's no offer. There's no approval. There's not even any first-party talks. There is a whole lot of interest, a whole lot of valuations, and a whole lot of third-party talks. Becky, the floor is yours as long as you want. Go ahead.
No, I just like you said, I mean, if you go back at how it worked at Washington, they called for, Board of Regents to meet at 4:00 in the afternoon, and they were like, yeah, we're going to meet at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
And then they went immediately into a closed session and didn't get out of there until after midnight. And then, as we all know, they were all supposed to be in the meeting, and then Schultz got the text message, yeah, we're not coming.
Yeah,
We're going to the Big Ten.
it's just there's a lot of work, and then there's a lot of action at the very end, and either it's going to happen or not. Like Texas going to the Pac-12, right? There was a lot of work. People, they both had interest, but the last moment, Texas, they decided not to do it. And conferences don't want to be out there on an island. They're not going to give you. There is no conference in this day and age that is going to offer anybody without having that application first and knowing that you're going to say yes when we give you the offer. It doesn't happen that way. I mean, that's how it happens. Go ahead.
And I would think like you have like what we have right now. We have 2 lawsuits in 2 separate states.
Yeah. Yes.
I would think like whatever conference, it doesn't matter. Like whatever TV network, they're just going to want to stay out of that unless like their lawyers are like, oh yeah, no, you're good.
Yes.
Go ahead and then start talking, because like it wouldn't make any sense to me for anybody to like go to the network until, hey, they can leave, because ESPN and Fox already have kind of like a little flimsy relationship.
Yeah.
If you want to go there, like they're getting ready to start that new app, which I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I can't wait for it because then I don't have to flip channels. But like, I wouldn't touch any of these teams at all until at least one of these are settled.
And I am not. Boy, I tell you what, if Texas A&M joins the Big Ten, I would take the big L right in front of this camera. I have not heard anything. A couple of times that I poked on it last year, I got a resounding no way is Texas A&M interested in joining the Big Ten. None, zero, zilch. They're not going to do it. Yeah, they can't stand Texas, but they love all. They're not leaving. They're not leaving the SEC. They're not leaving that culture. They're not leaving all those rivalries important to all their state sponsors. Their baseball program, and go right down the list. I've been told there's no way that Texas A&M is leaving the SEC. So, again, if I hear if it happens, I'm going to take the biggest L in college football YouTube channel history. I don't understand where people are getting it. I get it that Texas A&M doesn't like Texas. I get it. But you know what? When they play that Texas A&M Texas game, probably the night of that Saturday after Thanksgiving, it's probably going to be the third-headed monster of an incredible triple header. Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn, and then Texas A&M that night. When that game goes off and they get all those eyeballs on it, all that sponsorship money that they're going to be able to get in the years ahead, I don't believe, Becky, there's any chance Texas A&M leaves the SEC.
I've been one thing. I don't buy it either.
Yeah.
Like I'll be right there with you, going, oh yeah, no, A&M. I didn't see that coming. I really would. Like no, it doesn't make any sense. Like you said, just on a cultural standpoint, when it comes to like athletics.
Yeah.
No, like I mean, they fit in. Like that's why, like when they moved to the SEC, it was like, oh, it feels like they've been in the SEC for 100 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
They pretty much felt like an SEC school. But I think real quick though, for you, do we potentially see any other school jumping in here at all if anything goes with these lawsuits, or like to strengthen it, like say like a Miami or a North Carolina or Virginia? Do you see any of those schools trying to like lump in and join the fight with the other two? Or
I
do you
don't.
just see just these two
I
fighting
don't.
it, and then everybody else will just jump ship if it's
Yeah,
necessary?
I don't see anybody else jumping in. I don't think I think North Carolina's in a quagmire. And I don't and Miami's got their own little internal quagmire, and I don't see it, Becky.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just like, it's my one thing that I've been wondering, and I was like, oh, you know what, I'll ask somebody, and because I'm like, everybody else, like, as we saw with the Pac, the quietest schools ended up being the loudest.
Yeah.
And that was, Oregon and Washington. They ended up being the loudest out of the 10. But that's why, like, I think it's just been a little scary because Virginia said, it's just all quiet on the front there. You have a few politicians jumping in and saying things because they should, like maybe an attorney general. But another like, I think he's a member of the House or something like that. And then like a board of trustee or regent. I have no idea how theirs works in North Carolina. It seems like they have two different groups, board of governors or something. He mentioned something and they got told by the next group, no, quiet. So it's just been a little weird that everybody else has been super duper quiet, but these two have just been the most vocal and like, yeah, we're going to do it. So it's just been a little weird to me.
Yeah.
Like it does make me wonder how united the other schools actually are to each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it does start to make you kind of wonder how united they actually are, especially with, Cal and poor Stanford. They're right back in the middle of this.
Yeah.
We can't catch a break. Anyway,
all right.
love the show, Greg.
Becky,
I've been
thanks
working
for calling.
and listening at the same time. Yeah, anytime. And can't wait until the University of Washington plays Minnesota on Target Field at your stadium.
Well,
it's probably going to be called Target
It's
Field.
Huntington, but it might happen this year. It might happen this year in the Big Ten championship game. How do you like them apples?
I mean, I would take it. I would take it. It's going to be a long year. We have a couple of good teams.
Yeah.
But I
joking.
do want to know, I do want to get like everybody in the group, we need to like crowdfund, and then we can put the fat guy from Minnesota on the 20-yard line.
That's right.
Inside the Minnesota Stadium. Nothing like the peek around the corner.
They don't even have to, first of all, they don't even have to put me on the field. Fat guy from Minnesota should be up on the concession stands, number one. Number two, I should be. Now, I'm going to have to remind this person, but the Minnesota Golden Gopher football, one of their marketing people contacted me, and it's right on Twitter. I got to find the conversation. Right on X. He's going to invite me to be the person who goes and tries the new food at the concession stand at Huntington.
Oh.
Yeah. So at the stadium. So, and then when that happens, I'm going to video camera myself and put it up on the YouTube channel. So the fat guy from Minnesota is going to be bellying up at the bar, trying all their new foods out for the football stadium. So hopefully he doesn't pull back on that offer. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully. That would be awesome to see.
Yeah.
One last thing, Greg. Hopefully your beloved Timberwolves get their ownership figured out, or we're going to be calling them the Supersonics for the next couple of years.
I don't think so. I think I've gotten a lot of comments on my comment earlier today because I'm worried about Michael Bloomberg being now part of the ownership. I think Seattle and Vegas aren't they tied to expand?
They're expansion teams.
Yeah.
I think people have rumored that the two cities, I guess, are in the language of the new contract.
Yeah.
So, like, if they do expand, that'll probably be the two cities that get an expansion team. But
my
worry change if a team decides to move.
Yeah, my worry for the Timberwolves is a few years down the road, because they do need a new basketball arena, And Bloomberg, to me, he might be a guy who has a growing ownership during the years and might move them out, because he's got the money. And I don't know. I'm a little worried about the situation until they get a new basketball arena. I think the Timberwolves have the oldest basketball, a basketball arena that hasn't had any renovation. Let's put it that way. In the NBA, I'm pretty sure that's the case. So, but anyways,
I know you guys built it right before the expansion, maybe the North Stars played there or something like that. I can't remember what it was.
No, the Timberwolves played in the Metrodome. Was it the Metrodome? I think in the Metrodome for the first year or something until they got it built. So yeah, it's been around 1990. 1989, something like that. But anyways, thanks so much, Becky. Thanks for the call.
Worst case scenario, Greg, if they do get a new arena, I know a great place in Minneapolis that has a basketball arena that could probably loan it up to them. So anyway, Greg, love the show. Go Huskies, and I can't wait to see the Big Ten logo on the Husky football field.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
It's going to happen soon. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, July 1st is almost here. July 1st is when Washington Huskies officially become a Big Ten school. So they're going to have the Big Ten logo all over the place. USC, of course, Oregon, UCLA. I was watching on YouTube the USC-UCLA 1972 football game. 1972 USC UCLA YouTube. Boy, USC was great. They were the number one team in the country going into that game. Lynn Swann played in the backfield. He wasn't like he caught a lot of balls out of the backfield. He wasn't like a wide. He didn't line up as a wide receiver most of the time. And I think he wore number 22 for USC. Of course, then when he went to Pittsburgh, great wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But they had a great, Mike Ray was the quarterback. Clarence Davis, number 28. I think it's Clarence. Great running back. I don't know. I'm starting to watch Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA stuff. Getting ready for the Big Ten. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and then turn on your notifications. We can come on live at any time. I do apologize for this show. We lost the comments. I think it's a YouTube situation. I do not think it's an internal situation here inside the studios. I know this has happened before to other people. And this stuff happens. Phone problems, connection problems. We've had no connection problem, no phone problem, but now we have a comments problem. I can't put up your comments. It's one of the fun things we do here at Peek Around the Corner. Put up your interesting, clever, creative comments. Clarence Davis. What did I say? John Boxleitner. What did I call him? I didn't call him Clarence Davis. I don't know, but I didn't. Yes, Clarence Davis, number 28. I think Lynn Swann was 22. I'm trying to think of. I watched almost the whole game and I can't remember anybody's names. But anyways, USC was fast. They were good. Their offense in 1972, man, kind of looked like the offense that's being run now. I don't know. They had a really good team. Pat Hayden era, number 11. He was not the quarterback though. I keep trying to hit these comments. John Boxleitner, yes, Lynn Swann was number 22. Pat Hayden was not the quarterback. It was Mark Ray, number 6. I believe. Anyways, we're going to close it up. I want to thank people for the donations, for the comments in the comments section, even though I could not highlight them, and the great phone calls. This was a lazy Thursday early evening show. We talked about Brett Yormark talking to Arizona Board of Regents. We talked about ACC appealing the Judge Cooper's ruling. We talked football. We talked logos on the middle of the stadium. What logo would you like to see in the middle of your football stadium for the team that you watch? For Minnesota Golden Gophers, I got a feeling that there's going to be something to do with Cub Foods. Cub Foods in the middle of the stadium with the Gopher eating some type of food. But it better not be anything like a hamburger with cheese on it, because I'm going to get very, very upset. I want to thank everybody for coming on in. Keep your head on a swivel. Buckle up. Brace for impact. Thursday, June 6th. Friday, we'll see you then. Live show, PATC. Have your notifications turned on. We don't know what time it's going to be happening. We could be doing 2 live shows tomorrow. So subscribe, open up your notifications. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.